in St James Park at the moment with Jordi, who's got a very interesting story about veganism. So I'm going to ask Jordi a few questions.
Hello.
So first of all, how long have you been vegan for?
17 years.
Oh wow.
So yes, some time. I mean, I know many vegans have been 40, 50 years.
Wow, that's
but 17 is something.
That's good, yeah. Okay, it must have got easier though in 17 years, like much
absolutely.
easier than it was, yeah. Even in the last 2 years it's got easier, hasn't
Absolutely. It's so easy now to get vegan options everywhere. And so many vegans now that there's a lot of market for vegan options as well. So yeah, it's great.
Oh, brilliant. It's the best time to be vegan, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And your experience. So where are you from as well?
From Catalonia.
Catalonia. Oh, okay.
Catalonia. I'm Catalan. I've been here 25 years, 26 years now. So I still have the accent, but that never goes away. But yeah, I'm originally from Catalonia, and I'm a zoologist, so I studied zoology there.
Oh, really?
And I still, kind of every work I do, I still haven't abandoned my zoological side.
Oh, cool. That's really interesting. That's interesting. So, tell me about what happened. You're working for an animal welfare organisation, like charity, yeah?
Yes.
And tell me the story again of what happened in detail.
Yeah, what happens is in 2016 I was working for an animal welfare organisation. And being a vegan, like all vegans, every time I buy something, I always check the label to see if that is suitable for vegan. So when I joined this organisation, they enrolled me into a pension fund. You have to do that every time you join an organisation. And then I wanted to check where the money of that pension fund was invested. So I checked, and I was surprised because I was horrified to realize that most of the money would go to companies I would consider myself unethical, because they would do, it would be pharmaceutical companies doing vivisection and experiments and tests with animals, could be tobacco companies, could be petrol companies. When I mentioned this to my bosses, it took quite a long time to back and forward, but eventually, to cut the story short, I told my colleagues about the situation, because you can change your pension fund if you don't like it. And many of the colleagues were vegan like myself. I knew they would like to know
Oh
this.
yeah, so just letting them know what you wanted to
otherwise
know,
they would keep it and contribute without knowing to animal experiments. So after I told them, I was dismissed. I was fired. And they claimed that I was fired for gross misconduct for having told them. And I then decided to challenge this to the court system, to Employment Tribunal, and basically claiming that there was unfair dismissal because I was a whistleblower, and whistleblowers are protected by law in the UK, and I believe what I did was whistleblowing, and also because I was an ethical vegan, because they could have punished me in many ways, but they just directly dismissed me. And when you look into details about why and how, it was clear to me that that's because I was an ethical vegan. But when I went then to try to claim this to Employment Tribunal, I realized that ethical veganism is not quite protected yet in the UK. It's a philosophical belief, and in theory, philosophical belief should be protected. The Equalities Act 2010 says so. But each philosophical belief needs to be tested first in court for the judge to determine whether that qualifies as a protected belief or not. And it never has happened with veganism. So my case will be the first case. And if I'm successful, at least in the first hearing of the case, which is when this question will be asked, then not just me, but all ethical vegans will be protected. So it becomes a much more important case than I thought it would initially.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah. So you say it's in October it's happening? Where
in October
is
this pre-hearing. The case is divided into a pre-hearing only to look at the question of ethical veganism.
Okay.
And that will be 17th of October. And then in February next year, in 2020, there will be the full merits hearing. This is called the entire case, where then the judge will decide whether I was discriminated because I was an ethical vegan, or whether I was unfairly treated because I was a whistleblower. Then we'll know.
Right, that's interesting. So there's a lot to it.
Yes, absolutely.
It'd be interesting to see what happens. So when is it that we find out if the law's going to change to protect us?
Well, that will be
in October.
That will be in October. Yeah, in October, the judge will write the ruling, and it will say whether veganism is protected. Everybody I talk to, obviously my lawyers, but not just my lawyers, they all quite convinced that the lawyer would say, so the judge will say, yes, it's a protected belief. But you never know, because it's up to the judge. So it's up to what the criteria. But there's a series of things that have to be fulfilled for a belief to be protected. So the criteria that was already set up by the Employment Tribunal, by the Appeals Employment Tribunal, which is a higher court. And so the judge has to look at this criteria, and if it fits, veganism fits all of them, then it will be protected. And we all believe that, the veganism really fits in all of them.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because we go vegan, because some of us have such a deep-seated, I guess, not even belief realisation that it's so important for us not to pay for animal abuse.
Right.
So to not respect that just seems insane, literally, to me.
Yeah.
So I was surprised even when I heard your story in the news, people talking about it, and that it actually wasn't already a protected belief, veganism. I thought, surely it must be. It's like a religion in a way, but yeah, really, really important. And then I realised it wasn't. I was like, crazy.
No, you're right. I mean, many people do believe that, and people have been mentioning it before, and that's because the Equality Act does says philosophical beliefs are protected. So you assume, they all are. But the point is, not all are. So some beliefs, they've been tested in court, and the judge said, no, that philosophical belief is not protected. That it isn't. So to give you some of the examples of things that the belief have to fulfill to be protected. For instance, it has to be a genuine belief. It cannot just be an opinion you had, and you change it when the information changes. It has to affect a substantial part of someone's life and behavior, like veganism does.
Yeah.
So it has to have certain level of cogency, of coherence, of importance, kind of which is a tribal thing or joke type of thing. It has to be worthy of respect in a democratic society.
Right.
Should not be incompatible with human dignity. Should not be in conflict with the right of others. So all these things have to be fulfilled. If I tick all the boxes, which I believe veganism does, then that will be protected. But any other belief that doesn't tick all the boxes has been rejected by the courts. So therefore, although theoretically people might assume it's protected, and my claim is it should be, the law said that, is the decision of the judge that will determine whether it is or not.
Right. So fingers crossed, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for October, they realise that we deserve, as vegans, to have protected beliefs. Yeah, because it just seems so corrupt otherwise.
Sure, I mean, and what's important to notice is that we're not saying that veganism is a religion, because it's not. The Equality Act protects many things, protects gender, protects sexual orientation, protects age, protects religions and philosophical beliefs. They're separate, they're different things. So all these criteria I just mentioned, religions don't have to go through this process, only philosophical belief. So it's not that we're saying either is a religion, no. It's as protected as a religion, as protected as a gender, as protected as sexuality. It should not be less, because it affects your life in the same way, and there is an imperative that you cannot do things because of this philosophical belief. Therefore, people might abuse that and discriminate you because you have no choice of behavior, and then they might abuse you, like for instance, be dismissed, as in my case, or not giving a vegan option in your meal if you work in a place where they give you a meal, or forcing you to wear a uniform that has animal products. All these things will be discrimination. And if I'm successful, then it will be unlawful to do this. But it will go beyond the workplace. It will go into the services. And you cannot have a sign and the pub says vegans are not welcome. That you can now, but you would not be able to do it then.
Yeah.
Or meals in hospitals, or vegan options in schools. So it will go beyond employment. So might be a first step of something bigger, and there will be more and more cases, which will basically make easier for vegans to express their veganism, and therefore there will be more vegans because they will be more free to talk about it and persuade others to become vegan.
Yeah, so it'll be easier for people to actually go vegan as well once the law changes.
They will feel protected. They will feel that the law is with them, the society is with them. They're not marginalized.
Yeah, amazing. So you can potentially make so much change in our society.
Yeah, that is exciting. Obviously, I didn't plan this, and because I thought it was protected, like most people think as well. But then I realized, look, there will be something possible, very positive coming from this. It's worth to try. So what happens is I didn't have enough money to pay the lawyers to run this, so I started to crowdfund. It's a crowd justice page where people can help me to pay the legal fees. All the money that goes there goes straight to my legal team. And many vegans, hundreds of vegans have been supporting me. So now it's not just me, it's just all these vegans that are behind me, that they realize how important this is for them and everybody else. Yeah. And they're kind of giving me this little bit. I haven't got all the money yet, so people want to donate. Crowdjustice.com, look for Google or search for the word vegan, and then my page will appear there. And can
really
share it in
important.
social media
Yeah.
and all this sort of thing.
I will do, yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh gosh, so exciting. Can't wait to find out the outcome. Do you know when you find out the outcome from October?
I'm not quite sure whether the judge will give it straight away. There's a 2 days trial in October,
Okay.
or a couple of days afterwards. We'll find out. It depends.
Oh, okay.
I suspect it will be afterwards because the judge probably want to write things down. He probably will realize, he or she will realize the importance to do it right, and how many people are interested in knowing what his opinion would be. Therefore, I suspect it will take some time to write.
Yeah, it'll be really good to see. It'll be all over the news a bit as well. Again, when it happens, when the result comes out. Can't wait.
It was already in the news such a lot in December last year.
December, when I heard.
It's been in different times, but December is when the BBC talked about it, and when the BBC talked about it, it really went everywhere. And the interesting thing was how many other countries became interested in this.
Yeah.
Although this law is only going to affect the UK, because it's never been a case like that anywhere where veganism is being closed to be protected. And everywhere, every country has vegans, and every country has laws that more or less have a function to protect the rights of minorities. So that might happen in those countries too. So I got many interviews from China to Canada to everywhere, New Zealand, because they all see in this case perhaps as a precursor of other potential cases and changes in the law in other countries that will use this as an inspiration to move forward. So that means it's not just here. It might be the beginning of a domino effect, where many more and more countries start to protect veganism.
That is amazing. Oh, I hope that happens. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, I will see. The only interesting thing about this is that what it will be protected is ethical veganism, not just having a vegan diet.
Oh, yeah.
So all that just have a vegan diet for health reasons, that's not a belief. That's just because you want to be healthy.
Yeah.
In order to be a belief, you have to, as I said, affect a substantial aspect of your life, not just your diet, everything else you do. So that's where the word ethical vegans comes in, to make a distinction for those that become vegans for ethical reasons, that could be for the animals, like myself, or also for the environment, or social justice, from those that only do it for health reasons, that sometimes they call plant-based diet, or they have a plant-based diet. So this might not be protected, depends how the judge writes his decision or her decision, but what I'm claiming is that ethical veganism, which is I am an ethical vegan, is definitely a belief. Then the plant-based diet might be argued whether it is not, but ethical veganism is definitely what it should be.
That would be good. I think that will also help people to realise, because a lot of people don't actually know about that. I think a lot of people still think that being vegan just means changing your diet for whatever reason. So I think it will actually help people to realise, more people to realise as well, that veganism is about the animals, not just a diet.
This is precisely what the most common question I had from journalists when they find out about my story. They all ask, what's the difference between ethical vegans? In many, they had no idea that there were people like me and most vegans that we don't buy clothes that come from animals, that we don't go to circuses or zoos, that we don't buy products that are tested on animals. They didn't know. So at the very least, my story has helped to educate the public about veganism is much more than a diet. It's definitely not a trend. It's been happening for centuries. We could double in sizes of the number of vegans in the UK, not for fashion, is because so many reasons to become vegan now. There's so much information now that allows you to understand what happens to the environment and the animals, that it's no way back, so it's going to move forward. So it's only fair that those that become vegans, they are not discriminated against, they carry on being vegans without feeling that they have to hide it. It's only fair.
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant. It's so interesting to your story. Thanks for telling me about it. Is there anything else you want to add? We've gone quite
only just keep looking at the story. I mean, my story has also made people realize how often we are discriminated about vegans. And we haven't complained, or we haven't almost noticed it, because we assume that will be all right. But it's not all right. So if people feel discriminated from any way, because they cannot wear a vegan t-shirt like this one at work when everybody can wear any other t-shirt, because there is a meal at work and they give them a lettuce as a vegan option, everybody has 10 dishes. This is discrimination. People should complain to the bosses, and if they don't respond properly, go beyond and take legal action and go to Employment Tribunal, because once veganism is protected, you will have that option. So you could go. And people should be proud of being vegan, and it should be and kind of unable to express that philosophy as wide as possible, because after all, if we just become vegan ourselves, if we don't persuade anybody else to do it,
Exactly.
we're not going to change the world. And that's what we want to do, change the world for the better. We need many and more vegans becoming vegan. Therefore, it's up to, it's an important part of being vegan is just to convert other people to veganism, talk about veganism.
Yeah.
Therefore, yes, people do need to complain so they can be heard and they can feel confident that they can keep doing it.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, well done. It's awesome that you've done that. You've got us. That you've got it to this point, and that it's so cool. It's brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.